Okay guys, let's talk about shading, rendering. So what I want to do, I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to make the forms of this arm again. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second. First, let's talk about shading. So if I have a ball, okay, this is a three-dimensional object and we have a light source over here. The light is going to hit this part of the ball and it's not going to hit underneath the ball here. Okay, so what we would do is we would want to shade the ball. That's pretty simple. Yep. So if we do a cylinder now, and the light source is up in the same spot, excuse my very wobbly light bulb here, we would want to shade this side of the cylinder here and probably the underside here as well. Okay, it's pretty simple. Okay, same if we had, if we had a cube here, the light's coming from over there, so we'd want to shade this part here, depending on how far back in space it is, whether it's behind the object or in front of the object. We might or might not shade the front of it like that. Okay, that's pretty easy stuff. Now let's make this a three-dimensional floor. Under the ball here. Now two things happen when we have this floor. What I'll do, just to make it a bit more interesting, is we'll just do it three-dimensional. Okay, so two things happen. The first thing that happens is we have a cast shadow. So the ball will cast a shadow onto this ground platform here because the ball is blocking the light. So we'll have a shadow cast on the ground like this. That's pretty simple, yeah? Be the same thing if we had so again here we'd have our cast shadow on the ground, okay? So that's pretty simple. If an object is blocking the light from reaching another object, it will cast a shadow onto it. The second thing that happens is we get bounce light. So what's going to happen is the light is going to hit this platform here, and then it's going to send photons, which is what light is, photon particles up onto this ball, and we're going to get a lighter shade around the bottom here. So I'm going to go to my eraser, now just bear with me here, go back to my pencil. So there's nothing up here, so we're not going to get any bounce light up here. But from the ground here, we are. So we're going to get something like that. Okay, and again, if there was a ground plane under this cylinder here, we'd get a bit of bounce light under the bottom there, so it would be more like that. So we get our hard dark shadow in here, and then a lighter shadow underneath there. Okay, and it wouldn't be 100% light. You'd still be in shadow, but there'd be a little bit of that color, that light coming up into this. Okay, now this isn't a course on lighting and rendering, it's on anatomy. So I'm not going to stay on this any longer than what I need to. But I just wanted to give you those two concepts, because it's important when we get to shading this guy in a second, is we need to know that there will be cast shadows and there will be some bounce light as well. Okay, so let's move up here to this guy. So if we're going to shade this guy here, and what I'll do is I'll just tidy him up just a little bit just to make it a bit cleaner. Okay, so again, let's imagine that we have our light source coming from the front of this guy, and down. Okay, this is the direction our light source is coming from. So we have it up here somewhere, but in front of the guy. Okay, so there will be light hitting him. Okay, simple enough. So using that same light source on here, we're going to put some shadows in here like this. And because again it's coming from the top, we will have some shadow underneath here, and we'll probably have some cast shadow from this on here. Okay, but now we have to transfer these concepts onto the actual person himself. Okay, in fact this is facing down, so this would probably be pretty much entirely shaded like that. So now we need to transfer this onto the guy. So let's do that. So I'm going to make a new layer. Let's come over here. Now, the simplest one would be underneath the chest here like this. And then of course underneath the arm here, the arm is blocking the body there, so there will be a cast shadow from the arm under here like this. Now remember the form of these muscles, okay? So we'll chuck some shading here, and again, this is not a heavily, the character's not, you know, it's got not a heavy light source and you've got heavy shadows on him. We're just indicating them. Again, let's come over here. We'd have a little bit of a cast shadow on the arm from the body. Get something like that. Coming down here, and hopefully you can start to see where this is going. Instead of having these just thin lines, we're putting some form into them. And yeah, I'm not talking a whole lot because there's not a whole lot more to say. Just indicating these shadows. And you can see there, if we look at the difference, let's take away that, look at the difference between with no shadow and then with shadowing. Okay, this is why it's very important to put that stuff in there to indicate it, okay? So I'm not going to go into any heavy shadows in this, at least not at this point, because we're just working on the anatomy. So we're going to finish up this lesson here, and when we come back in the next lesson, we'll do a couple more complicated and more interesting poses.